Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're going to keep working on the valve cover, and let me show you what we're going to use. So we finally finished this blast cabinet. So it's actually pretty good. It's just a Harbor Freight sandblaster, and then you buy this kit that converts it to be a lot better. I still got to fix the door hinge or door handle, but other than that, it's good. We threw a light in here so we can see pretty well. This has a dust collection system as part of the kit you buy. So it's got a little centrifuge that dumps the dust in a bucket. Then that hose just loops over to a vacuum cleaner with a filter. I'd like to get a bag just to give it some extra filtration, but it's working well. I've got probably boring to some of y'all, but I have an air quality monitor and I'm checking and it's working. There's not much more dust in the air. So all good. Let me show you the results. This is still in process. So we can see like down here it's still dirty, and then you see it get this this color. That's been blasted. So it's working pretty well. And then you can see here that's about where it stops, right around there. I haven't done any of this yet. But it's working well. It's blending this, it's getting a uniform surface finish, which is what I was hoping for. So looks like this is going to work. We just got to keep going. But so far so good. Looks like going to be a good investment to be able to clean parts properly now. So I guess we'll probably be refinishing a lot of stuff in the future using this to prep everything. Alright, check it out. So we just got done sandblasting this, and it mostly went awesome. There's only one tiny problem that we're going to have to fix. Maybe y'all can see the problem. Apparently, basically whenever we machined it, we must have made that really thin, and when I blasted it, I just blasted right through. So we're going to have to weld that and fix it. Not the end of the world, but I had no idea I got that thin there. Whoops. So we'll have to fix that. That'll probably be difficult to fix, but we'll get it. But yeah, the sandblasting did exactly what I hoped. It blended all that sanding marks and everything and made a lot of that go away. So looks a lot better. I ain't gonna say perfect, but I'm happy with it. That did what we were hoping. And man, the sandblaster's quick. We luckily when we did our sandblasting setup, we kind of opted for like a high flow setup and a high flow gun. And the thing is, you have to have a lot of pressure to run it, but I have it. I've got a big old industrial air compressor, and this compressor, I'm sitting there blasting the whole time, and this thing's just cycling on and off. Like, it's not running all the time. You could be running another air tool while you're sandblasting with this thing. So, and I got the blaster at 120 psi too, so it's not like we're not pushing it. But sure enough, I'd read about this too. People say that more pressure helps a lot. And yeah, I tried it up at like 80, 90, 100. Even 100 was pretty good, but you get it up to 120 and it's way better. So having that extra pressure really helps. And the ventilation system is very helpful. I cannot imagine using one of these without it. Not that you'd want to breathe the dust, but you can't see. I can see, but it gets cloudy in here, even with the ventilation system. And I'm running a big, it's a big size shop vac, 12 gallon, 5 horsepower, but that's a pretty big system, and it could totally be bigger and work better. So overall, really happy. Glad to have this sucker in here. We'll be using this a lot moving forward. Now we're gonna grab a bite to eat, and then we gotta think about how we're gonna fix this valve cover, because we picked a bad spot to have a leak, because there's a seal that goes under this. That's where your valve cover gasket seals. So if I weld this, I'm going to have to reach in there and smooth that out so that the gasket seals against it, which I can do, but it is unfortunate that that happened. But that's my fault. I didn't pay attention. But hey, if that's the only casualty, then that's not too bad. Anyway, we'll be back in a little bit and keep going. All right, check this out. So we got our valve cover all finished up. It's ready for basically painting, so we're going to order some paint and try to do a decent job on that. But for now, she's done. So we did have to touch up, where was it? Maybe it was here, I don't remember. One of these spots, I guess it was here, it just disappeared. Right there, we had to build that up and fix it. We had a hole there, but we got that straightened out. Man, after doing all that, it sure looks better. I don't know if that was worth it. That was more work than I anticipated. But it's kind of a fun project. I learned a lot. I've never done this type of stuff, so that was kind of cool. But you can tell now after blasting it, it looks way cleaner, just less busy. So, yeah, it was a lot of work, but I'm kind of glad I did it now. So, pretty happy with that. I bet it's going to look really nice when we get it painted. So, at this point, I got a couple little things to get ready because I'll show you, even though that looks great. But this is the old pipe that went on it, and we're getting rid of most of this, but I need this piece. So we're gonna, this should be aluminum. I'm gonna double check. I expect this is aluminum. So I'm either gonna drill tap and install a fitting or just weld an AN fitting to this, and then, or just make a new one of these. But figure out a plan, and we're gonna hook an AN hose to that, I believe. So get that figured out, maybe get this cleaned up, and maybe put all that back on the valve cover. Gotta figure that out. But yeah, pretty happy with that. So we're gonna wrap that up, and then gotta get the subframe back in the car and put the motor in and see what we're gonna do next. Start mocking up the front of the car. Alright, so I can't help myself. So earlier we talked about deleting this pipe and just using this fitting to supply oil and then putting an AN fitting on it. I started looking, and I found a better way to do it. Let me show you what we came up with. Okay, hot off the welder, so still hot. But basically, the way this worked originally, oil went in the top here through that pipe. That pipe bolted right here, and there was a hole in here that had a plug in it. And basically, they drilled a hole through there, and then, I don't know if it'll show, maybe this will, yeah, see that? Right there, that hole was drilled through here all the way, and it intersects this valve. That's the oil feed. Well, that hole just happens to be the exact same size as a 6AN bung. And since there was a plug here, I pulled the plug and I looked and I was like, oh yeah, that goes straight through. And I was like, well, in theory, if I put a 6AN bung and hook a 6AN hose, the oil would go literally straight through to the valve. And all I would have to do is block this off. And after thinking about that, that makes this more low profile, and I think it'll be better. So we did it. I kind of wanted this fitting here anyway, because it would have been up like, from this view, that fitting would be about where my wire is. So we were able to keep it a lot lower this way, and this whole thing will be shorter, and I think it'll be better. And our weld actually turned out decent. Like, I'm kind of happy with this. So we basically did two. We did like a root and a cap to really, the root I think is already good to go, but I put a cap on it just to give it some extra strength, because this is on an engine that's going to vibrate a lot, and aluminum, in theory, this could crack and spray oil, but like I said, if I didn't think this would work, I wouldn't have done it. And I did that initial root, and it looked really good. Then I put a cap on it, really tied it all together, so this is going to have a floaty hose on it, so there won't be much load on this. So I think we'll be good on that. So yeah, there we go. Now we got, there's a valve that goes in here. I guess the only question will be that, you know, hopefully we didn't like distort this or anything and that valve still goes in. So I got to let it cool down, and we'll test it in a minute, make sure it's good. And then at that point, all I got to do is build a block-off plate, and then you just pop the O-ring, bolt the plate down, and this part will be done. Hey guys, welcome back. So this is going to be the summary of what we did on the valve cover and what the results were. So as y'all saw, we decided to clean this up and try to remove some weight, and so we machined out the baffles on the PCV side. The hole where the PCV used to go, we plugged it. We had another hole that we drilled, we plugged it. We deleted this boss, that hole. Boom, 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 boom. All those are gone. Something here. There's mounting bosses here that typically there's a VVT pipe that runs here and it bolts down back here. We took all those off. A little bit there. There's another mounting boss here. Not sure what that was for, but it's gone. We just went around and took off everything we could find that we didn't need. And of course, from here forward is gone, so we exposed the belt. One of the last things we did, so we were getting rid of this pipe, and we decided that we're going to put a block-off plate here, and we actually drilled a hole and welded an AN bung, so that's a 6AN fitting underneath the tape. And we'll just hook a hose to this, and it's only got to go to here, so it's not very far. Once we put the intake on, I'll see if there's a way to snake a hose through here, or if we got to go around one way or the other. Anyway, so we did all that. I think it looks a lot better. It kind of reminds me of the 99 valve cover because it's just less busy. That solenoid's still there. I briefly looked at, is there any way to get rid of that? But there really isn't, not practically. You'd have to relocate it, and you'd still have two hoses coming off, and it would probably mess with the response time a little. So we left it, but it's going to look a lot better anyway. So, all this work, Did it pay off? Well, sort of. Let me show you. So, for what it's worth, this is everything that came off the engine. So, actually this isn't everything. I left some stuff off. Whoops. But this is most of it. Bolts, fittings, hoses, pipes, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. We did forget this. That goes in there too, because we deleted that chamber. So, here's the summary. So, before we started, we weighed the valve cover. With all the stuff bolted to it, it was 10.08 pounds. The metal pipes that feed the head that weren't included then weighed about a pound. So that's 11.1 pounds. Now the new valve cover that you just looked at weighs 6.74 pounds with everything bolted to it. So that's a pretty big drop. But what we're missing, we still have to run oil to this. So we're going to have to install some fittings and hoses to get oil to it. Now I also have to install fittings to get oil to my turbo. So like that fitting doesn't really count, but there is at least going to be a hose, a 6AN hose, that reaches up to the valve cover. So I threw in another ½ pound for that. And that little block off plate that goes on the top, that's only 0.04 pounds. I just forgot it, but it's basically nothing. But check this out. So as you can see, we basically went from 11.1 down to 7.25. That's a 35% drop in weight, about almost 4 pounds off the top of the motor. So 35% is actually pretty impressive. It's actually hard to, sometimes you can pull 5 or 10% off of something without too much work. When you start getting into 20 and 30%, and this is 35, I mean, it's tough to do that and not like drastically affect the function of the part, because a lot of things, they don't leave a lot of material on the table, because from an automotive manufacturer's perspective, the primary driving cost to manufacture a part is its weight. Materials are actually the dominant cost for manufacturing, so they do quite a bit to save weight. One of the reasons that a lot of new engines keep getting lighter and they start making stuff out of plastics and aluminum and, you know, whatever, it's all about saving weight. So 35% weight savings. I'm actually pretty happy with that. You combine that with the, in my opinion, the aesthetic improvement, I'm good with it. So that's going to kind of wrap this up. We looked into making this piece, but it only cost $4 to get that made on the internet. So basically the next time I place an order to get some parts cut, I'll just throw that in there with it. And for now, it's just going to have tape on it to keep it clean. But that's, oh, I guess we forgot the bolts that hold the valve cover. I don't remember if we weighed those before. It's not really the valve cover. That didn't really change, but I can't remember. Anyway, still saved almost 4 pounds. Looks better. I'm pretty happy with it. Took forever. I'm going to say it was worth it because I do like how it looks, but that did take a lot of work. Anyway, till next time, y'all take it easy.